Hello, YouTube. Sir Dragon X here. Is it true that Mexican immigration is still conducting random immigration checks, even though the Supreme Court made a decision that they couldn't? I'm going to discuss that in the video coming up next. On May 22nd, 2022 of this year, I did a video on a monumental Supreme Court decision that deemed random immigration checks unconstitutional. Today, we're going to review whether Mexican immigration is complying with this ruling, and if they aren't, what are the possible reasons? But before we start, I want to remind you to subscribe to this channel, hit that like button if you enjoyed the content. It really helps me get the word out on YouTube. So, is Mexican immigration actually complying with this ruling? Like I always say, it depends, and we're going to discuss that further. But what I do want to note is that several days after I did my video on this decision, I was actually traveling from Monterrey, Mexico to McAllen, Texas on Highway 40, and I actually witnessed a random immigration check. When I actually witnessed this immigration check, I started to think to myself, well, it's only been a couple of days since this decision, so probably someone didn't get the memo. But as time has passed, I've traveled on the highways of Mexico, and I've noticed that immigration still stops buses randomly to check people's immigration status. So let's examine what may be going on here. In order to understand what may be going on here, I think we need to go back to the original case that spurred this actual monumental decision. The case had to do with several Mexican indigenous people that were traveling on a bus, and immigration actually singled them out off the bus to check their immigration papers. So, in essence, what immigration did in this case was they actually did what we call profiling in the United States. And if we look further at the decision, the actual Supreme Court basically said that immigration was wrong in singling these people out because of the color of their skin or the fact that they didn't speak Spanish. So you see, it wasn't the actual random stop that was at question. What was at question was the fact that they went straight to these indigenous people and singled them out of the whole bus. And that is a reason why the Supreme Court actually deemed this stop unconstitutional. Now, keep in mind that I'm not a Mexican legal expert, I'm not a Mexican lawyer, nor am I a Mexican law enforcement official. So what I am doing here is making my personal analysis from a law enforcement perspective. What I see here is that there's actually two stops. The first stop was the random stop of the bus. What I see as the second stop from a law enforcement perspective is when they actually boarded the bus to actually question these Mexican indigenous people. So technically there were two encounters, making it two stops. Stick with me here. Each encounter actually counts as a stop. Now, if you look at the Supreme Court decision, what the Supreme Court said is that I&M could not discriminate. What they did in this case was they actually discriminated by singling these people out because of the color of their skin and the fact that they didn't speak the language. So technically, they were profiling. So I think the misunderstanding here is that actually immigration did do a random stop on the bus, and they actually did a random check of the individuals on the bus, but they actually profiled individuals on the bus. And that's what's actually unconstitutional. Now, like I said, I'm not a Mexican lawyer or a Mexican legal expert. If you want to chime in the comments and give your 2 cents, that's fine. All I'm doing is giving you a perspective from a law enforcement side. Actually, in the United States, it is unconstitutional to profile also. So the truth is that Mexican immigration is still doing random immigration stops on buses and actually setting up random checkpoints. Here are several pictures of examples of random immigration stops that were happening just last week, and they were actually sent to me by a source. Legally, I may be wrong because, like I said, I'm not a Mexican legal expert. There may be another reason for this. Kuru Paul, in his video on this subject, basically stated that he has actually seen several of these types of decisions being made by the Supreme Court and really nothing changing. So that could also be another reason for this. I think what's important to note here is whether my analysis is right or what Kuru Paul says is right, you still are bound by Mexican law to present your immigration papers if asked by an immigration official. And like I said, they're still conducting random immigration checks. Maybe not as much as they used to, but they still are. So I guess the moral of the story is be prepared, don't be surprised, and I hope this information was useful, and don't forget to subscribe, and see you soon.